Good day. It's Monday, November the 8th. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. Today, we've got CEO Jennifer Twiner McCarron of Thunderbird Entertainment joining us. Thunderbird is a global full-service, multi-platform production, distribution, rights management company creating award-winning scripted, unscripted, animated programming for the world's leading digital platforms, as well as Canadian and international broadcasters. I've got Thunderbird on the call today for a couple of reasons. I've seen many of their shows and seen them with my kids too, so it's fun to see how the business side of this works. And I'm always interested in how the business of show business works. It often seems murky how deals are made and profits shared, so I'm hoping we can better understand this. The company's been successful and I'm trying to figure out how the company is going to continue growing into the future. And the company boasts a very impressive board of directors and management team. But remember, this is neither a recommendation nor an investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. And Jen, thank you for joining us today. And I've got to say, you are my favorite, most impressive female CEO that actually I've met in several years. Unfortunately, you are the only female CEO in numerous years that I've met. So it's great to have you on for many reasons, not just that. So thanks a lot, and let's hear the story.
No, that's great, Martin. I'll take the coveted favorite spot, even if it is the only one. So thank you so much for joining us. Thunderbird Entertainment is a high-quality global content company. As Martin noted, we create, own, and distribute award-winning factual, animated, and scripted content worldwide. We're well on our way to becoming the next major global studio and have over 250 partnerships, such as Netflix, HBO Max, Apple, Disney, Discovery Channel, NBC Universal, and more. Featured here on this slide is our New York Times adapted best-selling book, Last Kids on Earth. It's always on the New York Times top 10 bestseller list with Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Harry Potter. And Last Kids on Earth is currently airing on Netflix. And our console video games just went live on June 4th. And the game is featured in Target's National Circular this week and sold out on Amazon. Currently, we are in the top 10 of all Netflix shows, not just Kids and Family. And last summer, Last Kids on Earth won the Emmy Award for Best Outstanding Special Class Animated Program. And I'm so proud of the teams. Just going to keep going here. On this slide, I'll move into our executive summary. Featured here is Princesses Wear Pants, one of our shows. And it ties into our mission, which is to create content that makes the world a better place, tries to make people happy, and provides a much needed escape, especially during these unprecedented times. This show here, we developed with Savannah Guthrie from Today's Show, and Ali Oppenheimer, her husband Noah, runs NBC News, and Drew Barrymore. This is a New York Times best-selling book series, and this works a new take on princesses, featuring diversity, inclusivity, and leadership. It's been set up at a major streamer, and I'm sure you can guess which one, as their only princess show to go head-to-head with Disney's entire princess line. And if this show takes off, as we hope it will, we will be there to benefit from all of the sales from merchandise, gaming, etc. And I'm sure any of you listening in with young kids know how popular this genre can be. Last summer, we won the prestigious Peabody Award for our work in diversity and inclusivity, nominated alongside shows you may recognize like Stranger Things, Succession, and Fleabag. And the Peabody honors the most powerful, enlightening, and invigorating stories of the year. Recently, our studio also won the Kidscreen Award for Best Inclusivity, and BC Business voted our company #1 this year in diversity and inclusivity. Our goal is for every man, woman, child of every gender and ethnicity to see themselves in popular content reflected back in a positive light. Not only is it the right thing to do, it's proving to be extremely good for business. We're well on our way to be recognized as a major global studio, and never has there been a better time to be in the content creation business. Our executive summary. We're a microcap company with revenue of over $110 million, which increased over 40% in fiscal year 21, and EBITDA of over $19.5 million, which increased over 26% in fiscal year 21, and we're growing. We have free cash flow of over $12.3 million, and this is a 68% year-over-year increase with zero corporate debt. Our award-winning team of 1,000 artists is based in Los Angeles, Vancouver, Ottawa, and Toronto, And last summer alone, in addition to the Peabody and the Emmy, we won a Television's Critics Award, and Fast Company added Thunderbird Entertainment to its list of 2020's most innovative companies to watch, and we're on Canadian Business Magazine's list of fastest growing companies. Our extensive library continues to generate recurring revenue for us from names such as Kim's Convenience, Da Vinci's Code, Beatbugs, Game of Homes, and more. With new alliances with toy and video game companies, we are further able to leverage our IP and content into the world of merchandise, gaming, microtransactions, which will open up new and possibly very lucrative revenue streams for our company. Taking a look at our investment thesis, the two main drivers of our company are Atomic Cartoons, the Kids and Family division, with shows like Beatbugs, Last Kids on Earth, Hella Ninja, recently announced Dogs in Space with Netflix, My Little Pony with Hasbro, Spider-Man with Disney Plus, and more. And Great Pacific Media, our factual documentary style division, with hits like Highway Through Hell, Save My Reno, and newly announced Dead Man's Curse for History Channel. We're uniquely positioned in that both factual and Kids and Family are the cornerstone of each streamer's strategy to glue that key co-viewing audience, which is essentially families at home gathering to watch content together. This is the stickiest of all demographics, as people are less likely to subscribe and then unsubscribe when Kids and Family are glued. For example, the hit property Coco Melon, anyone out there with toddlers will know this one, with its nursery rhymes, generates over 2 billion views per month on YouTube. Netflix saw that and licensed compilations of these videos, which I'm proud to announce we're producing for Netflix and Moonbug. And stay tuned for some amazing episodes in 2022. And they have been one of the 10 most popular shows in one country or another for all but a handful of days this year. In fact, just this past week, Moonbug just sold to Blackstone for $3 billion US, with a 15-time multiple because of Coco Melon. Contrast this with successful scripted programming for adults like Bridgerton or Lupin, where the biggest hits are popular for several days and then are eclipsed by the next show. Again, we have zero corporate debt, we're young, we're nimble, and we're growing. Here's a sampling of our customers. We're in over 200 territories, 40 different languages. We're working with all of the top players and have great visibility into our future with work fully booked through 2022, right through 23 and 24. Here's a look at our recent scaling and profitability. This slide illustrates the phenomenal growth we've had. And the picture here is of Lego Star Wars Holiday Special that we developed with Lucasfilm and Lego. And it dropped November 17th on Disney Plus. And Bob Iger sent our team a note saying he couldn't tell the difference between our special and some of the feature film work, which the team was ecstatic. As a result of the team's amazing work, we've embarked on a series of projects with Disney and Lucasfilm. And stay tuned for this other amazing special, Star Wars Terrifying Tales, which has recently launched. Taking a look at our company overview, we were founded in 2003 with the mission of creating libraries to lift and fund IP exploitation and create major global brands. In 2014, Great Pacific Media was acquired, and in 2016, Atomic Cartoons. The original mission remains very much alive today, as our major global brands delight audiences around the world and are increasingly moving into ancillary business like distribution, consumer products, toys, and video games. Here's our experienced executive team. Barb, Sarah, and myself are all highly operational. We've all grown up in this industry. And Matt and Richard are key for us being in LA with the push for IP ownership and ancillary business and an ever commanding presence in LA, nurturing relationships with all of our key buyers. Taking a more granular look at both of our divisions, at Atomic Cartoons, we produce high-end content across multiple 2D and 3D pipelines and genres, spanning preschool, comedy, action-adventure, adult, and everything in between. Here's a look at some titles which you may recognize. Rick and Morty, Lego Jurassic World, Hilda, Curious George, 101 Dalmatians, just to name a few. Plus recently announced Coco Melon, and more Star Wars Lego, My Little Pony, Dogs in Space, and more. We're increasing our IP ownership, providing ancillary revenue in toys, merchandise, music, and gaming. And in addition to the recent partnership with Savannah Guthrie and Drew Barrymore I mentioned, we have a feature film partnership with the writers from The Simpsons that we own, and some very good additional announcements coming. We're also working with Reese Witherspoon's company, Hello Sunshine, who also just sold to Blackstone for a lot of money, from fame like Big Little Lies to open up their kids and family division. And they found our company because of our emphasis on diversity and inclusivity, which is also really important to Reese Witherspoon. At Great Pacific Media, we're factual television, widely considered best in class, almost 100% owned IP, developed by award-winning journalists with an eye for authenticity and truth-telling in our Vancouver studio. Highway Through Hell is going into its 10th season with more to come. Here's a look at some of the amazing titles, which you may recognize. Save My Reno, Daily Planet, Untold Stories of the ER, just to name a few. A new IP recently announced are shows like Styled and Gut Job for Chorus, Dead Man's Curse for History, and What If, the popular series of books is currently being set up, and Strays, starring Nicole Power from Kim's Convenience fame, just launched this past September. Again, we own almost 100% of our remarkable IP and have an almost unbeatable renewal rate. In fact, Highway Through Hell is one of the most successfully independently owned unscripted brands in the world, with 2 spin-offs, Rescue 401 and Mud Mountain, which was just renewed for season 2. Taking a look at our consumer products and distribution division, on January 11th, we were thrilled to announce the hire of industry heavyweight Richard Goldsmith, well regarded as one of the best in the industry, having worked at Disney, Warner Brothers, the Jim Henson Company. Richard joined our company because he saw the incredible work taking place. I had a lot of calls that week from Netflix, Disney, you name it, saying, wow, you guys hired Richard. How did you do that? This new division will allow us to further increase and exploit our IP ownership in video games, merchandise, all cross-media exploitation, and increase ownership as we distribute content around the globe. Announced properties like the one featured here, Mermicorno, which is from Tokidoki fame that we now own, the insanely popular Japanese lifestyle brand, will be set up under this division. And instead of hiring a third-party consumer products and distribution company, we will be able to further increase and leverage ownership for Thunderbird. Additionally, we can now serve as a distributor and consumer products agent for other companies requiring this expertise, further opening up a new line of business for us. We see this as completely synergistic with our own productions. Our world-class talent. As a content creation company, we are absolutely nothing without the amazing talent and creative force that we work with. People have joined Thunderbird from Disney, DreamWorks, National Geographic, Pixar, just to name a few. And they're coming to us because they see something special happening and want to be part of this amazing journey that we're on. Our response to COVID. This slide's of note because in March 2020, we managed to successfully transition 100% of staff to home without missing a beat or any deliverables. At a time when many companies stumbled, we didn't miss one delivery or create any cost overages for our partners. Only they're deepening their trust in us as a high-quality, high-integrity studio. We are compliant with Tier 1 security, such as Disney's, and at a time where live action has trouble reliably shooting with 200 people on a film set, it's complicated. Our 2 main drivers, animation and factual, can work virtually and have thrived at this time. Our IT and pipeline teams have done such a great job. Last month, Netflix asked our team to present to their team on Teradici, and how we've ensured such a safe and efficient workflow. We've increased benefits for our workforce, especially focused on mental health, and are working to do our small part as good corporate citizens to take care of everyone that we can. Additionally, we used to think of our studio by capacity. How many people can we fit into a building? Now, if we're offered a show that we love and have passion for and makes great business sense, we can go for it as we're no longer confined to the 4 studio walls. I've touched on this previously in the presentation, but diversity and inclusivity is incredibly important to us. We're proud of the shows that highlight characters from diverse backgrounds, like Peabody Werner Molly of Denali, on which we worked with over 60 Indigenous actors, writers, and producers from Denali and Alaska, many of which are now working full-time in the industry today. We continue to focus on a safe and healthy workforce, keeping diversity and inclusion at the forefront of our culture. Featured here are some of the many initiatives that we have underway. We strive to be industry leaders in D&I, and not only is it the right thing to do, it really is good for business. A Boston consulting group study of more than 700 companies around the world showed that diversity increases the capacity for innovation by expanding the range of a company's ideas and opinions, leading to a better financial performance. Of the 1,700 companies, those reporting above average diversity on their management teams had EBITDA margins that were over 10 percentage points higher than those companies with below average diversity. With our newfound ability to have crew work from home, we are further able to recruit and offer opportunities to diverse talent. We are now able to hire people who may not be able to move to one of the cities in which we're located. Thanks to the work from home tech boom, we can remove geography as a barrier to diversification. Taking a look at diversification at Great Pacific Media, industry-wide, we are very proud to be known as a safe place to work, and currently our staff is 40% female, 50% male, and 10% gender fluid. Content's a way to change the narrative, enforce the messaging of diversity and inclusivity, and as content providers, we believe we have a true responsibility to get this right. Taking a look at our industry landscape, 2020 was a transformative year for the television and film industry. Demand was strong before, and now it's through the roof. I'm sure many of you listening in have crushed more Netflix than you ever imagined might be possible. It definitely helped me with the homeschooling times and a break from the somewhat depressing news cycle. In fact, Netflix had 89 million subscribers in 2016, 231 million in 2021, and are predicting 374 million subscribers by 2027. Disney has topped more than 100 million subscribers just 16 months after they launched, already beating their 3-year projections, and they are predicting 260 million subscribers by 2024. And content spending has reached new heights. These are published commitments to content spending from Disney, Comcast, Amazon, Hulu, Discovery, and Netflix and more through 2022, and it's huge. Netflix alone commissions over 1,000 pieces of original programming in a year. And budgets continue to grow. At a time when content is king and streamers have to constantly refresh their sites to glue subscribers, budgets are booming. Thunderbird is winning the boom on content, as we've always kept quality as our North Star, and streamers are willing to pay as only the highest quality of content will stand out and succeed. Industry drivers, well, much of this I have touched on, but the headline is this: the industry's on fire, booming, and growth is coming from all countries and regions around the world, not just North America. Thunderbird's uniquely positioned with our strong relationships and incredible reputation to fully capitalize on this exploding growth curve. The new players coming online are not startups. These are major players like Apple and Disney, and they're getting into it because they see the success of Netflix, what a massively lucrative industry and exciting business it is. And people are home watching content, even as we inch out of the pandemic days. Crowding into movie theaters will likely be forever altered. Recently, Disney released the Marvel movie Black Widow simultaneously in theaters and on Disney+. It grossed over $215 million in its first weekend, with strong showings on both large and small screens. Domestically, it earned $80 million in theaters and $60 million in renters. This hybrid strategy allowed for those viewers in areas where they don't want to go to theaters to enjoy from home, or perhaps, you just want to stay home and relax. And it's paving the way to make this the new strategic common occurrence. As noted previously, kids and family programming stays on the top 10 list of streamers much longer. Kids and family don't move on to the next big thing as quickly as with adult scripted shows. And this type of programming has longevity on all streaming platforms. Our financial overview featured going forward, and I love the business model. This slide really breaks down the business of Thunderbird. We have property that we own, property that we service, and property that we partner on. Intellectual property like featured here, Highway Through Hell, Last Kids on Earth, Kim's Convenience, we 100% own. We still make money, we get paid upon delivery, but then that copyright stays in our library forever for all cross-media exploitation, toys, games, you name it. Service, that's where we're hired to execute 100% on projects. An example here would be 101 Dalmatian Street or Hilda. And this is when we're cash flow throughout, plus a healthy producer fee. Prior to 101 Dalmatian Street, we did Donald Duck for Disney. So them trusting us with their heritage brands, when we do a good job, we can turn around and sell our own IP to them. The partnership model we're increasingly seeing, and this is where we're hired to handle all creative from writing through post and delivery. The streamers have to turn on so much work, they can't handle it all internally. And as a result, for us doing all of the heavy lifting, we participate in ownership, a substantial producer fee, and a percentage of back-end sales for consumer products, merch, all across media exploitation. Going forward into our library, substantial additional library like revenues from shows like Cold Squad, Da Vinci's Inquest adds nicely to our total revenues. These titles are distributed around the world and add to our healthy cash flow with international library sales and music publishing. This is interesting because a wonderful part of being a Canadian domiciled company in Canada are the incredible tax incentives that have been around for well over 30 years. A new bill introduced in November 2020 by the Canadian government, which requires streamers to invest in and buy a certain percentage of Canadian content. Streamers will go with their trusted partners like Thunderbird, and as a result, this will just further allow us to turn on more of our own IP. So essentially, up to 50% of Canadian residents' salaries will be covered by the government. This allows us to put higher quality on the screen and present high-quality budgets to broadcasters that are almost impossible to say no to. Taking a look at our condensed balance sheets, our cash position is strong. We have zero debt again, and the updates are through June 30th, 2021, our year end. Our condensed income statements, again, revenue was over 111 million compared to 81 million in fiscal year 20, and revenue, EBITDA, and free cash flow continue to increase for us. Trading information and capital structure, our corporate debt's nothing. We're nimble and able to be opportunistic in these times. We have a large contingent of dedicated insider ownership who believe in and champion our story. And we're just 1 year into our IR journey with Bristol, and we're thrilled to finally be getting our story out to the world. So thank you, Martin, for allowing me to talk about it. Growth opportunities, where are we going? This is my favorite slide. We're continuing to develop and acquire IP with over 50 projects coming up through our pipelines, and there's some good announcements coming. This IP can be leveraged into many forms of recurring revenue, again, like microtransactional games, mobile games, console games, toys, bed sheets, ice skating shows, you name it. And our presence in LA continues to expand due to unprecedented demand from the streamers. Being in LA gives us access to top talent in the heart of the industry. Being able to execute in Canada at top level is truly an unbeatable proposition. We're expanding into animated feature films. There's a huge market now for in-home theater. I mentioned the partnership with the writing team for The Simpsons, which will be announced soon. I can't wait to tell you what we're doing. And Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, credited his increased fourth quarter earnings that beat analyst expectations on revenue and net subscriber additions on the power of the family movie. We've opened up our own consumer products and distribution division in LA to further increase ownership and our ability to leverage and exploit top-tier IP. We're increasing presence in territories around the world, like Southeast Asia, where recently Netflix and Disney have announced they're focusing on new subscriptions. By having ownership in these areas, we can recognize the content and run it through our burgeoning consumer products and distribution division. And M&A is on our minds. How can we complement our existing business with our great organic growth with something accretive? Great Pacific and Atomic have hit their stride, and we're on the lookout for the next area of growth for Thunderbird. In summary, we're rapidly growing, highly profitable, with greater than 19 million of adjusted EBITDA in fiscal year 21. We had 40% revenue increase, 26% EBITDA increase, and again, 68% year-over-year increase to free cash flow and zero corporate debt. We're increasing our ownership in major global brands is incredibly lucrative. The reason Hasbro bought E1 for $5 billion was because of Peppa the Pig and PJ Masks. The reason Blackstone just bought Moonbug for $3 billion was Coco Melon. The value of these global brands when they hit is massive. Never has there been a better time to be in the content creation business. And I believe never has there been a better company than Thunderbird to capitalize on this amazing time as we are well on our way to becoming the next major global studio. And that's it. Thank you.
Jen, thank you very much. I warned you I was going to interrupt you, but you were on such a roll there. There was so much going on. I didn't know where to jump in. So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask you to go back to a couple of slides and we can kind of go back to that. I think you had one where you had the 3 pillars of your IP with the partnerships, your own produced, and then the service bureau.
Yes. Yeah. Let me get back to that. And I was trying to pause because I was like, I think Martin wants to jump in, but he's not jumping in, so I'll keep going.
So, yeah. Anyways, that's great. So, I guess the service model, maybe I'd like to start with that. That's maybe sort of the easiest. Someone basically they own whatever 101 Dalmatians. They have that. They own the copyright and all that, and then they phone you guys up and say, hey, we'd like to do a cartoon out of this. We want to talk to you about that. Is that sort of how it starts? Exactly.
So because we have a large body of work behind us, that sort of speaks for itself. The teams have done an amazing job. And Disney will say, hey, we want to take 101 Dalmatians. We want to rejuvenate that brand, 101 Dalmatians. Let's call Atomic and see if they can work with us on it. Now, as amazing as it would be to get a piece of that IP, we never would. So we're just paid throughout and cash flowed by milestones throughout the production.
And I would presume they phone up half a dozen, whatever, reputable service animation houses. And then I'm sure it's not just a, hey, who's going to do it for the cheapest price? It's, what do you guys do? You sit down, you say, this is sort of the concept, and you come back to them with some sort of ideas, because they don't give you the scripts, I presume. I presume they say, hey, we want you to work with this. You come up with all the ideas and whatever. They give you notes and so forth. How do they sort of evaluate you between other people, that whole process? How does that work?
No, it's a great question. They definitely don't just hand it to us. So we'll do a bid on it, and we'll put together what we think the budget looks like, what we think a schedule looks like. We call them a set of assumptions, as we make assumptions around the creative, what level of quality, the number of characters, what we're thinking. Sometimes we handle the writing, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just get handed the scripts, and then we'll take it from there and do all the voice records, animation, you name it. So every show comes together a little bit differently.
Okay. And is there, there's a producer fee. Do you get, and I want to get, when we talk about the streaming service, especially like Netflix, do you just get paid like a certain amount, or do you get a cut of the revenues? Or if you come in under budget, you get, like, what kind of financial incentives do they give you to make like a high quality product? Obviously it's your brand. You want to do that to get repeat business, but are there any other things, like if it's a super hit, do you get any sort of better returns off of those?
Generally, no, we don't. Every show takes on its own negotiation. Each show, we incorporate a new business. So because they all have different, ideas to them, the partnership model takes that into account. If we're doing extra heavy lifting, like if we're handling all the writing, if we're handling absolutely everything tip to tail, then oftentimes we will receive ownership in the back end. But there's no sort of cookie cutter way. Every show is its own negotiation.
So is partnerships, is that sort of a continuum between from services to your own intellectual property? The partnerships are kind of in the middle of that, where you're adding more of your own IP and creative thought to it. Is that what sort of makes it a partnership versus a services kind of business?
That's a good way to think of it. It's where we do more of the heavy lifting in the partnership model. It really is a collaboration. And while we don't keep the copyright per se, similar to IP that would live in our library forevermore, we, because of that extra heavy lifting, we are rewarded with some of the back end sales.
Gotcha. And on the back end, does that kind of exist anymore in the world of streaming? Like Netflix, you don't know how many, like everyone sort of guesses and they look at IP data or whatever to figure out how many people view it, but you don't have seats or views and so forth. Is there any kind of a profit sharing in that world, or does Netflix sort of cut you a check, and a very big check, and there's you don't really know kind of how it grossed, so to speak.
Yeah, it's hard to answer directly because every show takes on its own entity. Certainly, we do understand how our shows are doing and how they're performing, and that might lead to more renewals, which is a big bonus. And there's debate around how much is shared. I think that's in the news right now.
Yeah,
the streamers are starting to share more intel.
well, they are now.
Yeah, which is great because it is a good tool for producers, especially if you own the IP. When you have that intel, the number of streams it gets and whatnot can help you do a better job setting up a toy line. Because if somebody like Walmart understands truly how popular it is with metrics, you're better to get likely to get better shelf space, that type of thing. So it is a real collaboration that is evolving, I would say.
Gotcha. Yeah, because sometimes when I'm watching a Netflix show, but I'm not picking on Netflix, but just any of these streamers, I sometimes feel like there's a big name director, they got a big check, and it seems like they just sort of wrote it in. They weren't really trying that hard because they got kind of paid up front, and it doesn't seem like they're getting paid on the revenue side. Sometimes it feels like they're just, oh, we got a contract here, let's just punt it out and go on to the next one since there's such big budgets out there.
I don't know, the creatives I've worked take such pride in their work that I think just sometimes it goes really right and sometimes the stars and the moons don't line up.
Yeah. Okay. And on your is this your ideal business model? Like, would you want to be like all your own IP, or is it nice to sort of be diversified, do some service work, which I guess is kind of lower margin, doesn't have the big upside? Or or would you kind of want to get all the way to like fully controlling everything that you do at some point?
Having a healthy mix of these three models is great because with IP, you are paid upon delivery. We are a publicly traded company. But also then you get recurring revenue for many, many years based on any distribution or consumer products. But because service and partnership, you're paid throughout, it adds to a nice, healthy cash flow to offset intellectual property, which is paid upon delivery.
Okay, and then less risk, and you get the cash flow.
And plus, when you do a great job in service, we treat service shows like we own them. It's really important. Our clients are beyond happy with what we do, and when you do a good job in service, when you go to pitch your own IP, you have a better chance of selling it as well.
Okay. And you made an emphasis in your presentation on like diversity and culture and so forth. And I'm curious where, and I believe at Pixar, John Lasseter, and I don't know, I haven't even read his book, but there are some things in culture and so forth that companies do to what do you do to make sure that you're consistently doing high quality, that it's creative? There can't be sort of just one person, some magic wizard in the background saying, oh, do this, do that. This is all teamwork. Can you talk about your little secret sauce a little bit about what makes you keep hitting these sort of home runs or great shows, and that you can think that's a repeatable process, not just a sort of one-off lucky creative strike of genius?
Yeah, we try to line everything up, that we're doing our research, focus groups. In terms of diversity and inclusivity, we keep metrics. We're working with people like Pride at Work Canada who help understand your workforce and where you're at. And, we really do know and believe in every fiber of our being that when you lift new and authentic voices, you get new stories. A more popular example that we didn't do would be Frozen, the movie, which was Disney's first female director. And that was the story of sister love, which of course you wouldn't have gotten unless a female director was promoted to the forefront. And so I think that helps the bottom line. It helps the quality of work. And so we understand our stats, where we at, where are we lacking in diversity and inclusivity? How can we add to it? How do we raise new and authentic voices, and then give them the tools to be as successful as possible?
Okay. And then that during COVID, you talked about like connecting, like you've got like, this is very strong culture-based organization and collaborative work. None of this is just on your own. I guess a lot of Zoom meetings, or what kind of changes in the way you guys operated did you have to do to make it all kind of work in the new work paradigm?
Yeah, so we implemented a software called TBRD, which was great because it was a secure VPN portal to the building. So that allowed us to still operate in the manner which tough security clients like Disney or Netflix expect, but do so in a safe way. And we, we had a great team of IT and pipeline crew that kind of came to me at the end of February of 2020 and said, what if we all have to work fully from home? And I was like, really? You think that could happen? And they said, well, and wisely so, it's better to plan for the worst and hope for the best. So we had always toyed with the idea of trying to increase flexibility. We live in, we have operations in expensive cities like Vancouver and Los Angeles. And, the ability for people not to have to commute every day if they want to own something, live a little further afoot. That was something we were always hoping to provide for our employees. So we thought we'd invest in a new, very expensive fire drive in TBRD, some new equipment. And so by the time things did start to shutter mid-March, we were ready to go.
And it sounds like this is going to be a permanent change in culture. People will want to come back to the office to some extent, but still have that flexibility where you'll keep that flexibility available to your teams.
Martin, it is the number one question we get in interviews. So yeah. I think to remain competitive with talent, we will always now have to offer that hybrid. And piecing it together, there's going to be some trials and tribulations over the next year. But with labor markets so tight in every industry, I'm sure you hear this from other CEOs you speak to, the war on talent is real. Yeah. We will need to offer that flexibility of a home office hybrid forevermore, I believe.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. With the Apple TVs and the Netflix and so forth, they're very much of sort of Northern California, not Southern California. Like, they're obviously throwing billions of dollars at the market. How else are they changing sort of the culture of show business in Hollywood and of producing movies and that?
Well, I think also, something that's long been a mission of ours, which I've spoken now in detail, is diversity and inclusivity. But I would say another somewhat silver lining of the pandemic was the Black Lives Matter movement, which really brought forward a lot of the inequities that are faced. And all of the streamers and content providers got behind that. So now they have mandates to buy diverse and inclusive content and show it. So again, not only is it the right thing to be doing, it is, very good for business as we all participate in this movement. And I'm thrilled that most of our industry partners are embracing it.
All right. So, sorry, and I forget the name of I believe it was a gentleman you hired to handle your merchandising a business. So just to simplify it, you've got your own IP, and I guess through your partnerships, you may be able to grow this business side of it as well. So when you have your content, you can launch video games or toys or board games or T-shirts or whatever, and find a new revenue stream for your content off of that.
That's exactly right. So having Richard here allows us to set up more of our own IP as we do the right deals to, piece it together, how it comes together in financing so that we can maintain ownership. And then again, once that copyright, the example here is McCarron from the really successful Japanese lifestyle brand Tokidoki. Once that lives in our library, we have it forever to monetize in anything you can think of. And branded content is needed everywhere.
Yeah. And then could that actually that operate as its own kind of service bureau for other people? Say, hey, Thunderbird does a great job managing license and IP. We'll hire them to do our work, to kind of manage our IP for us and monetize that?
Exactly right. Yep. So now we can offer, we're acting now as a third-party distributor for other companies' IP, which again, just, we take a piece of that ownership and it increases our recurring revenue.
Okay. You talked about your possible M&A strategy. Would that be more on the acquiring more IP, or is it not just, but just getting like other talent or other just more bodies and more brains and so forth in there, or what kind of things? Is there anything you're really missing in your portfolio that you're looking to acquire, or just good people and businesses that will work well with Thunderbird?
Yeah, so we can look to some of our other Canadian media peers and think, okay, well, a roll-up strategy is a good idea. So
yeah,
the goal is not to get bigger just for the sake of getting bigger. We're really looking for strategic fits. How are people consuming content? Where are people's eyeballs going? Where do the streamers need to go to increase subscriptions? You know, they're all going to tap out in North America. They need to get into Europe, Southeast Asia, and they can't just air North American content. So what type of companies and regions in Europe and Southeast Asia, for example, are doing great work that we could participate, have ownership in, help them sell it from our LA base, help them turn on their own IP that the streamers will need to buy, run that IP through our burgeoning consumer products and distribution division. So that's our strategy as we look. And then, of course, culture number one, shared value systems, is hugely important, I believe, to make any M&A transaction successful, as you well know.
Yeah. So, okay. So it's really a global M&A. That is where some emphasis is in what the types of companies you're looking at.
Exactly right. Yeah. It's we want to become a major global studio, and we believe, especially now more than ever, we need to have that international footprint.
Yeah. I guess all the Squid Game stuff is really showing where that's.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I love it, because it really, you get so much content that you're looking for something different and new and just different perspectives, and of that diversity, it just makes it so much more interesting there.
Absolutely.
We have some questions here, so I'll throw these out at you. Over the next 12 months, what are the biggest challenges you will have to overcome?
I think our challenges really are around maintaining culture, and with the hybrid model. So much of our success, which we've focused on for years, is creating a safe environment where talent can thrive. No one feels like a number. And a lot of tricks in our tool belt that we used to use when we were all in the office together have gone by the wayside. So really treating talent, they're key to all of our success, the way we want to treat them, you know, increasing our retention strategies and changing them, you know, as we get into 22 and forward. And what does the new world of work look like? And those are some challenges, but will be key to us remaining successful.
Well, and I guess actually, in a way, once you really get into the hybrid model, that could be way more complicated, because if some people are showing up to the office every day or 3 days a week, and someone else maybe shows up a couple times a month, maybe they're hobnobbing with the boss or the creative director, and those who aren't in the office are getting left aside, or it's harder to communicate in a meeting if you're the only one on a TV screen. So I guess trying to mash that together will be challenging.
Well, it's kind of a strategic, it can't kind of be all over the place trying to, even though it's flexible, it has to be really organized to make it work. Yeah. And, I don't know, though. I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal last week that was called, "What's worse than a Zoom meeting? A hybrid Zoom meeting."
Yeah.
You know, so there's going to be a lot of kinks to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. And the culture, I think, will be the one that's going to have to sort of figure out and be very proactive in determining how to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Will you consider paying a dividend in the future? Is that part of the potential?
I think when we're an established global studio, definitely. Right now, we're a growth story. And so I think that money's better spent reinvesting in our own growth than at a dividend at this point. But once, I can successfully say that we're a major global studio, I do like the idea of a dividend. I just think that where we're at right now, it's much more prudent to reinvest in our growth.
Makes sense. who do you consider your biggest competitors? And yeah, in your industry, that must be really interesting, like sort of competitors or frenemies. You partner with someone one day and then you're bidding on something against them the next day.
Yeah, I think, you know, this business, I have a view that we all do better when everyone's doing better. I root for all the Canadian companies like ours because the tide rises together. Somewhat. I'd say our competitors are increasingly, DreamWorks and E1, and we're doing some really high quality, top-notch work alongside the other major global studios. So that's exciting and an honor to be in company.
All right. Your partnerships, and I think it'll be, the question here is how long does it take from first contact to a contract signing with partnerships? They say weeks or months, and I'm guessing that could go from weeks to years. Maybe something gestates for on and on for a long time until everyone figures it out. Can you maybe walk us a bit through how a partnership deal could work? Yeah,
sometimes they come together within weeks. And other times it is months in the making, especially if it's not fully developed and no one's sure what the show is.
Yeah.
Before greenlighting it, you want to make sure that it's going to be successful. And then, like anything, I would say with a lot of the IP work, I think a great example is Peppa the Pig was around for 10 years before anybody bought it. So there's no such thing as, an overnight success.
Yeah. Yeah. And what kind of keeps you up at night, or what are the biggest threats to the business? That I know that budgets shrink all of a sudden overnight. There's a recession, and all of a sudden that 15 billion of content budget gets shrunk, and they start killing deals, or what kind of scares you?
I'm not worried about the industry condensing. Wildly, popular professional opinion is that this boom is on for the next 7 to 9 years. These are major global players coming in. So I don't worry about the work. I mostly worry about the ability to grow in a public market and continue to do what we do well. And also, the talent really, which is so key to our success. And just the way every industry right now is, the nature of talent has changed. With the ability to work from home, that means you could be sitting in Vancouver and working for a company in the UK. And we benefit from that as well, because we can hire from around the world, but we also face those challenges. So it's just a new way of doing business. And again, because nothing's more important than the people we're working with, it's trying to stay ahead of how to honor that properly post-pandemic.
When referring back to that competitors question, would the competitors be more really on the staffing and the competitors for the people that you work with? Is that where the biggest threat of competition is? Not so much on what you're bidding, but that you can maintain the best talent?
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely it. We've got a great groups of people whose whole job is just looking for sourcing and lifting IP. They're amazingly talented. And really, it's just making sure that we've got the right, it's sometimes I think, it'd be easy to run like if I was I'm sure the CEO of Bic Pens has trouble too, but it's not like adding another piece of machinery and spitting out 1,000 more pens. It's a real, the creative is a real push and pull sort of finesse type of thing to grow it in a meaningful way, which is why we've done so well organically, and we continue to have a great organic forecast. But adding in synergistic companies right now seems like the right growth strategy.
Yeah. And how many of your people are like contractors versus full employees, or just like, hey, we're going to bring you on for a project, and then how much is it employee based versus contractor based?
Well, full-time employees is probably only 10%. Because our company is so project-based, we do tend to hire for the duration of the show, but we treat everybody the same. Everybody gets the same benefits. We do RRSP, 401k matching, regardless of the time that you're here. So we're really trying to make sure it's fair, take care of all of our contractors equally, to the employees. But because it is contract based, it is that much, easier to, it allows us to expand and contract in a more natural way.
Okay. And so, yeah, there's a question here on your staff turnover. I guess that's given that there's so much sort of shorter term contract stuff that's a little tougher to comment, but is there any perspective you can give on staff turnover?
Yeah, we've had people rolling for over 10 years and we only have a sort of 3% attrition rate. We've always focused on culture and people. So in some ways, I believe our teams are better prepared for this new world order on the war on talent because we've always put it number one. Okay. So we were doing very well. It's just, I know how key it is to our success. So that's why I'm, staying up, trying to think of the way the world's changing and how do we stay ahead of that and anticipate people's needs. Okay.
All right. And we should start wrapping it up here. And something I always ask is, for investors, what kind of news over the next 3, 6, 9 months should people be expecting? Launch of new shows, maybe some M&A? What things to sort of keep the investor interested or excited as to why they should buy today? Because what kind of news is going to come out tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely some more great IP announcements coming. So I think that's exciting. As well as we're in M&A conversations with about 30 different companies. So this isn't a notional idea. This is well underway.
Okay. So that is something could definitely happen within the next 12 months.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. No guarantees because, these things can have peaks and valleys, as we all know. And we don't want to rush into anything. Again, we're trying not to get bigger for the sake of getting bigger. This is a long-term growth strategy.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we should wrap it up here. Any final comments you want to say to finish things off?
No, just thank you for having me and allowing me to share the story. I'm so proud of the teams and the amazing work they're doing. And I think, we really are grateful to be in a somewhat pandemic-resistant industry. And as we carry on our quest to become a major global studio, I really appreciate the chance to showcase Thunderbird.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. That's really great. Thanks a lot, Jen. And maybe come back in 6 months or something after some news has come across and we can get an update on how things are progressing.
Absolutely. I would love that.
All right. Awesome. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Martin. Have a great day.